remember you that at the end of the third round, people 3-0 were Luca Bastianelli, Paolo Gaudini, Alvaro Gonzalez Alonso, Neil's team that we seen him losing against Romanil, Rodrigo Togores, Joachim Scholde, Thomas Marr, and Francesco Gianni. So now we are waiting for the results and the standing after the fourth round, and then we will stream the fifth round of the vintage tournament with another passionating defy. So, David, what's your opinion at this point of this vintage tournament?
Well, as we saw in the first match we covered, vintage hasn't changed much since the last time I played. I mean, we're always, always dependent on force of will, always dependent on the die roll, and we have seen Neil's team, drawing too many cards off his sideboard, forgetting about his main strategy, keeping a decent hand. Sometimes decent hands are not enough to actually win the game, especially if you play against a control combo, that this doesn't really give you many turns, doesn't really give you much time.
Yeah, you have to, in a vintage tournament, you have to know that you can face an Emrakul first turn, Trinis Fair first turn, a strong threat in turn one, and this reduces a lot the rogue decks, the variety of the metagame, because your deck, it must be able to afford this. It must be able to afford an Ancestral Recall first turn, to afford the Library first turn. I mean, is probably, I think I never played a vintage tournament without Force of Wills. Because if you don't have a response of a first turn play of your opponent, maybe you can lose many games for that. So, anyways, let's look. We will try to look at the deck of the players 4-0 after this turn to give you an idea of which deck probably will make into the top 8. So, to be precise. And anyway, we can tell you that for sure there will be, for me, a Planeswalker control some one or two of them with a Jace, with a Confidant, with a Time Vault and Key. This is the deck that gives you consistent result and consistent performance game by game and tournament by tournament, doing always the same good things that kind of deck does, and being versatile against Artifact, against the combo decks, against the rogue decks, against practically every deck you can face. So the other deck like that is always is always good is the Artifact deck. Artifact deck in vintage is the staple deck. I mean, is there since practically with 2-3 people in the top 8 since Mirrodin expansion went out with a Trinisphere, with the Lodestone Golem after, with Tangle Wires and Karn and so on. So the Artifact deck is always been there, looking as a menace for all the players attending.
Okay, we do have the deck breakdown for 64 players, the standard tournament. Basically, the most played decks today are Red-Green Dragon Ramp. 8 players decided to run, the new deck that came out with the last Star City games. Red deck wins with 8 players as well. And then we have Jeskai tokens, Adsban control, Jeskai aggro, blue-black control, Adsban aggro. They're just the followers. And then we have a few, CDZ whip, heroic deck, Adsban whip, just following with just 3 or 4 players choosing to play those. So as we can see, the metagame shifted, just going under the current metagame with red deck queens, or over the current metagame with red-green dragon ramp. Anyway, we should be able to give you round 5 of the vintage tournament in just a couple of minutes. As Pietro was saying before, when you go into a vintage tournament, you have to accept you're gonna face Trinisphere on turn 1. You have to accept that whatever you're gonna try to play on turn 1, you can face cards like Force of Will, you can face cards like Mental Misstep. It's not like everything you're gonna do has to be focused on facing those cards. Sometimes it's gonna be you asking the questions, sometimes it's gonna be your opponent asking the questions. Normally, I don't mind being the one asking questions with Trinispheres and Spheres and trying to lock the opponent down. But playing this kind of decks and this kind of strategies is very, very reliable on the die roll.
Yeah. I was trying to fetch what Marco Camilluzzi did in the end of the Pro Tour, but can you fetch for me what Marco Camilluzzi did on the Pro Tour top 8? We don't have a result. So just to update you. And so in 5 minutes we have to. This Rumanil won 2-0 against Neil's team. For in the Eye of Chaos. So Rumanil was able to defeat the strong mud deck of Neil's team by practically sweeping even with an Emrakul in turn 1 in the first game, and basically waiting in game 2, where after a team proposed the free Grafdigger cage, it didn't put a lot in play. So Rumanil have all the time to set his hand, play a demonic tutor, play a simple Ingot Chewer, with which it ended the game in his favor. So the Omni Oath of Rumanil defeated the mood of Twim. So now I was saying to you that in 3 or 5 minutes we'll have the second match of vintage coverage, that will be the 5th round out of 7 is in this vintage tournament. So that will have for 70 player a very good grid of prizes, because the first play, the winner, he will get 2,000 euros, and this is for 70 players is a very good payout. Also for standard tournament, for 64 players, the winner will have 2,000 euros. So the Magic Card Market Series, it's
really good value. It's really good value. All these prices, it's like 2,000 for the first one, and you only have to face like 70 players. Just as today. Yesterday, 200 players showed up for Legacy. The previous day, 156 showed up for Modern. So yeah, definitely good value. If I wasn't in the booth, I would definitely be playing either Vintage or Standard.
Yeah, this, but you don't have to complain on the fact that you missed this tournament, because you have the opportunity to attend the other 5 events of vintage of the Magic Card Market Series that will be in London, then in Prague, then in Switzerland, then in France, and then in Spain. And the final will be back in Italy. At the final, in the final, we probably have Pascal Wagner. So, be sure of that. If you are a fan of Pascal, you have to follow this streaming, because you'll see him, I think, many times. So Anyways, we about the Italians. Wagner for the moment is having a 2-1 run in vintage. I mean, he is playing Doomsday, and for now, as far as we know, he have 2-1 and 1 loss. So, let's say I'm waiting to see if he managed to win the fourth turn. Anyways, I was saying that for the Italian players, uh, practically in the modern event, there were 3 Italians in the top 8, being the 50-60% of the attendance. And in the legacy event, there were 2 Italian players in the top 8 on 200 person, and on I think 50-60% of Italians in the attendance. So we have to say that the Italian players are not performing so well in this series. Apart from Pascal Wagner, that is above all, but in general, the Italian players, we have Faina in the final, in the legacy event, and we have another Italian in the final in the modern event. So the Italian went not all Italians in the top 8, but the Italians in the top 8 both managed to reach the finals against the monster Pascal Wagner. Yeah, Kadei is playing vintage. Is 3-1 at the moment. He's playing mentor. Many players is playing mentor. Is mentor very strong in this metagame because it's a blue-white-red deck who can practically overcome the opponent simply playing Moxies and Repeals. You don't have to do nothing special to win. He just puts a mentor in play. When he plays some Moxies, when he plays some Repeal, can play also Jace or Duck Faden, and basically it's a control that with a mentor, with a single card, he gets both the winning condition and both the permanent to face artifact. So it's a very strong option, slightly above the Young Pyromancer, that was the first part, in the first ways, was very played because he's able to close the game and face artifact. But this mentor is very above the Pyromancer, because the Pyromancer needs to be activated by instant or sorceries. Instead, the mentor, he uses every non-creature spell, and he's got prowess, and the tokens they also got prowess. So basically, when you have the mentor in play and the 1 or 2 tokens, and you play 2 Moxies, you got an army. So this is what puts the mentor deck now as I think a tier 1 of the format, with Mud and with the standard playing Walker control with Dark Confidence and so on. So basically, these are the 3 decks that I see ahead in this moment. Obviously, with Oath of Druids always there. With this deck we see, we show and tell, but these are not constant deck. They do things if they see some card. Instead, this is quite instead there's some for that reason there's a lot of Sulfur Elemental that people are playing to face the mentor deck. So Sulfur Elemental is a card that it was very played in Legacy to facing the tokens, the soldiers, and now he's getting into Vintage because he is able to, with Split Second and the Flash ability, to kill all the mentors and tokens, and the opponent cannot do nothing in response to that. So Tezcast, I don't know. Maybe Roberto Rocchi is a fan of Tezcast. Maybe he's playing it. I don't know. But anyways, but yeah, good. And maybe Roberto Rocchi, but Roberto Rocchi is now 2-2. So and we have obviously Luca Lovino and Gianni with the classic Gash Storm Gash deck, and this is a classic deck also. Is strong because obviously he got the synergy between Fastbond and Gash. He got a strong draw engine. He's got the ability to overcome every other control deck, having a better draw engine of the other. But the other now relies only on the Jace and on the Ancestral Recall. So now we gonna have
we are ready for round 5 of the vintage. We're gonna show you Thomas Marr against Paolo Gaudini. Thomas Marr playing 4-color fish against Paolo Gaudini playing Gash.
And we are also the standings. We got Stefan Romanil and Rodrigo Togores at 12 points. Thomas Marr at 12 points too, so he's 4-0. Paolo Gaudini's got 10 points. Alonso Gonzalez and Joachim Scholde with 10 points. Francesco Gianni and Riccardo Biava 10 points and 9 points. And Gianni and Biava will face each other now. And Angelo Cadei will face Sanchez Pedro now at 9 points. Then we have Marco Rocchetti against Daniel Ballestin. Okay, so we'll try to see how Gaudini and Thomas Marr will perform. I can say a 4-color fish, in my opinion, it's a deck that you have to see as all the fish decks, all the things in the correct order. I never liked the fish decks in vintage because we have to see all the cards in the correct order. You have to see the wasteland at the correct moment. You have to see these days in the correct moment. Otherwise, if your strategy don't fits perfect with the strategy of the opponent, maybe you can draw blank many cards. So instead, the Gash deck has his own strategy that he passes through a series of Gash and is able to. But we know true that even if I told you that the fish deck is my favorite, we know that Thomas Marr is a very, very good player from Czech Republic, I think, and it's a very, very good player. And yesterday he almost reached the top 8 in the Legacy tournament. Today is 4-0 on the vintage tournament, so he's a very good player, and we expect him to perform good. Otherwise, sincerely, I don't know Paolo Gaudini with playing with Gash deck.
One thing about the metagame and the impact of Mentor into the metagame is basically the fact that Mentor is such a strong card overall. It affects also like every other deck choice. Like basically, if you are playing Artifact, you might as well, play your Tangle Wires, play your Smokestack, and then you face an army of 1/1s, right? Which is also like permanence. I mean, your lock strategy just goes tits up basically, and that's the same thing for Fish. I mean, you might try and play the Denial game or something like that, and then your opponent just leads with Land, Mana Crypt, Monastery, go, and all of a sudden, you're facing a bunch of 1/1s with prowess, and you're done.
Yeah. This is what I trying to tell you before. I mean, the fish deck is always been relied to a strategy that if it fits perfectly with the end of your opponent is almost irresistible. Because if you start with a wasteland and a daze, and the opponent has 2 lands, you probably win that game. But if your opponent starts with land, mox, mana, crypt, go, and you have a wasteland and a daze in your hand, and you have a denial plan, you probably wouldn't get to win this game. So it's not as mad that is a strong lock. A fisher wants to do a lock elements, a beat down elements, a control elements, a draw engine. So he's got to do many things instead of mad that is doing only one thing. But he do is better than fish deck. So let's see the end of Thomas.
Let's see the fish hand, because it's probably the most important hand among the two.
Yeah, obviously. But Gash hand, we pretty know.
Also takes a quick mulligan.
It takes a quick mulligan. And we can see the hand of the Gash player. He's got a time walk, he's got a fire ice, he's got a force of will, he's got 3 lands, and he's got a time twister. Not as in a resistible hand, but he's got 3 lands.
I mean, 3 lands are normally, a good place to start. Also, Force of Will, not great against fish, because there's not many threats that you need to answer with Force of Will. Fire and Ice, much better, can also 2 for 1 sometimes.
Yeah.
Time Walk, quite important. It can get you from 2 manas to 3 manas, which might be, it might be important. And he leads with a fetch land and says go.
Yeah, Thomas Murray is now on the draw, and I think he fought the Detroit Shaman as the 7th card that I think is very important for his strategy. He's probably playing Detroit Shaman, Dark Confidence. He's playing the bug list, the classic bug fish list, with another color that is the red for the bolts and so on. Yeah, it goes land Detroit Shaman, but it's definitely a good start for that deck. Probably the best start, absolutely.
And there's an immediate mental misstep. It does, Gaudini does have a Fire and Ice, but he still chooses to mental misstep.
Yeah.
And he meets with, the other mental misstep from Mar.
We told before of a strong of a mental misstep in this metagame. Is definitely the card you want to have one in your initial 7, because it's a card that can prevent the Detroit Shaman, the Ancestral Recall, the Brainstorms, and maybe sometimes the Soaring if you're playing a denial deck. It's a strong card without cost as a Force of Will, but it doesn't give a card disadvantage. So it's a very strong card in this format, in this quick format. Now with 2 mana.
He has the choice of just firing away the 1/2, or he might as well Time Walk, just basically cycling Time Walk.
Yeah.
He decides not to, and he just fires the.
I like this.
Also, I like playing the Mox before as well, just to get out of days, just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. A Strip Mine comes. An Ancestral Recall.
Well, we know Gaudini has Force of Will. He has Force of Will and Time Walk to pitch.
I would pitch Time Walk definitely.
And he definitely does it.
Yeah,
Pitching.
absolutely agree.
He does pitch Time Walk.
Yeah, absolutely agree. But now he's in quite trouble. He's got 3 lands and only a card in hand against Thomas that he's got. He's got 2 lands. But he got in study. But now Thomas, he had to know that the denial plan partially failed, because Gaudini's got 3 lands and he's got 2 colors he needs. Now he's pondering into his deck. Thomas Marr. Mental Mind Step. Another Mental Mind Step.
Also, we see the Mar decides obviously just to pay his 2 life, because the life total against Gash is not that important, but he might draw into a 2-drop.
Yeah. Yeah, the mana is always, always important in this format. You have to spare all the mana you can.
I mean, especially in this matchup, like the life total is absolutely relevant.
Yeah, now-
from Mar's side.
Yeah, now Thomas, he's got a Detroit Shaman, he's got another card in hand. Gaudini's got only one card, and Thomas, he's got a Detroit Shaman that is. Yeah, he knows. He now puts away Fire Ice because he knows that if Gaudini draws a snap into a Snapcaster Mage, he could prevent this. So now he passes the turn. Gaudini is not drawing so well, I think. They are both at 14, but Thomas has got two cards. He's got the Detroit Shaman. He's got no denial plan in this moment.
But it does. He has access to basically every single color that he needs.
Yeah.
Like it does have 3 blue sources, red, black, and green. So he can activate his Deathray Shaman ability, which is ticking down Gaudini's life total, which might also become relevant with a Yagmoth wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, now Thomas Mar is playing with the Deathray Shaman ability as a sorcery because he fears that if he does it and on turn, a Snapcaster Mage could respond to him activating the card he chooses. So this is a